In this session, we're going to look at lessons 69, 70, and 71. The first thing we're going to look at is called a matrix, and it's going to look just like this in your book. What you're going to do on your calculator is you're going to go second function matrix, and actually the word matrix is actually just right there on your calculator. Second function matrix, you're going to go to edit, and then you're going to hit A. So you edit A, and then you put in the exact numbers that are on the board in your calculator. Then you have to hit quit to get out of that mode. Go back to your matrix. Then you're going to go to math, and you're going to hit DET, which is the determinant. Then you go back to the matrix and hit names and hit A, because A is the 2x2 matrix that you created. And then you hit enter, and it'll give you the determinant is negative 22. Whenever you get a matrix that has a variable in it, you're not going to be able to use your calculator. You're going to have to solve for it the old school way. And the way that you solve for this matrix on the 2x2 is you're going to cross multiply. When you cross multiply, the first one is going to be x plus 4 times 4, and you'll hit minus. So this is just a standard. There's always a negative sign in between. And then 3 times 2 equals 18. Then it's just a normal solve problem. So 4x plus 16 minus 6 equals 18. 4x plus 10 equals 18. 4x equals 8. X equals 2. That's how you solve for a matrix. We're going to skip over to lesson 71, and we'll come back to lesson 70 z-scores. We'll end with that. In lesson 71, we're going to graph an ellipse. And what you're going to do in order to graph an ellipse is you're going to plug in 0 for x, and then you'll plug in 0 for y. First thing you're going to do is plug in 0 for x. When you plug in 0 for x, 0 divided by 25 is 0. So basically that is gone, and you have y squared over 9 equals 1 left. Multiply both sides by 9, and those cancel. Y squared equals 9, square root of both sides. Y equals positive or negative 3. So when x is 0, y is positive or negative 3. All right, so the other one is when the y squared over 9, when you make that 0, that will cancel, and you get x squared over 25 equals 1. Multiply both sides by 25. Those cancel. X squared equals 25. Square root of both sides. X equals positive or negative 5. And so when you plug in back over here, whenever y was 0, x was 5, and negative 5. Now, what you're going to do when you graph this is you simply plot the 4 points. You have 5, 0, negative 5, 0. You have 0, 3, and 0, negative 3. And you have your ellipse graphed. Now, we do want to label them 0, negative 3, 0, 3, 0, 5, and 0, negative 5. That is how you graph an ellipse. The only other thing with graphing an ellipse is when it's not in standard form, you got to move it to standard form. And the way you do that is you divide everything by what's on the right, because you want this to end up with 1 on the right side of the equal sign. And so when you do that, 5 and 15 reduce down to 3, and then 2 and 15 reduce to 7.5. So that whenever you plug in x for 0, in this case, you're actually going to get radical. When you plug in 0 for x squared and y squared, you're going to get radicals. So if I plug in 0 for x squared, then I multiply both sides by 7.5, I'm going to end up with this. So I actually get a radical of positive or negative 7.5. And when I plug in for x, I get a radical of positive or negative 3. So then we graph those just like we graph the other was in the last example. The last concept that we're going to cover is lesson 70. We're going to look at z-scores. It's just a way to look at averages and different things like that, be able to do scientific studies. In this one, the formula is z-score equals x minus u over kind of a theta looking deal. This, remember, is the standard deviation, something we've already covered. That is standard deviation symbol. The u is the symbol for mean, and then x is going to be our variable. So that's how you find z-score. And what they say in this first example is that the mean of, they look at babies and baby weights in this first example, and it's on page 443 in your book, example 70.1. But it says the mean of the babies born in a hospital is 6.8. So the mean is 6.8. And then they say the standard deviation of the babies is 0.8. And then they say give the approximate percentage of those, given these numbers, that is less than 6.4 pounds. So the way we do that, we take this formula, and if we're finding the z-score, the mean is 6.8, the standard deviation is 0.8, and the variable is 6.4. So it would be 0.4 divided by 0.8 is a negative 0.4, divided by 0.8, which is negative 0.5. It's negative 0.5. And on this scale, you would go to 2 decimal places, so it'd be negative 0.50. Now, you're going to get a scale or a table in class, and we'll use the negative side, and we go down to negative 0.5, and then on the top, it's negative 0.50. So negative 0.5, you take it all the way over, and you get 0.3085. 0.03 or 0.3085, which move the decimal point twice, so that would be 30.85% of the babies born in this hospital are less than 6.4. So that is one of the simpler ways to find z-score.